Do you remember doing something recently unreservedly? Who said Nirkula, what did you do? It was Prasadam last night. There was a little reservation. Nachara Marman, dancing unreservedly. Worshipping unreservedly. No reservations. Look up the word reservation. What does it mean to be unreserved? Unreservedly worship. The act of reserving something? Keeping back or withholding. And where does it come from? At the bottom, etymology, yeah. Middle English. Reserved tongue. From what? Middle English from? Latin? French, reservation? It's from French, reservation. To keep back. To keep something back. So you can unreservedly worship Srimad Bhagavatam. Means you don't have to hold anything back. Give everything that you've got for the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's good advice. That's the advice. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Viditam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katahmayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Parakamalam Sri Ganta Dvanta Harine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambu Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virvava Bhomestvam Niyadesa Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratvishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Tanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarva Swapadambo Jao Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumadha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanastha Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Deva Prishtali Bhi Sevya Manusmarami Sriman Rasarasarambi Vamshi Vatatatatastita Karshan Venu Swanir Gopi Gopinatha Shri Estuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayai Tulsi Devyai Priyayai Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Nishinga Jai Nishinga Jai Jai Nishinga Pralada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhyutanam Adharmasya Tatatmanam Srijamyaham Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chaduskritam Dharma Samstapanartaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mami Vaishyasti Yuktvaivam Atmanam Parayanaha Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Raja Ahang Tang Sarva Papebhyo Mukshayishami Masuchaha Shushusho Sharadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtan Shevanad Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Prityantaksto Hyabadrani Vitunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshu Habadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kamaloba Dayaschaye Chaitaiter Anavidam Stitam Satve Prasiditi Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vidyate Hridaye Grantish Chijante Sarva Samshayaha Shyante Chasya Karmani Drishtaye Vatmanishvare Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Praushtapadyam Paurnamasyam Hema Singha Samanvitam Dadati Yo Bhagavatam Sayati Paramam Gatim. If on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. There's a lot of things you can do in life. And sometimes people, before they die, they write down a list of the things they wish they had done. And in fact, people compile them. I don't know if they're making them up, but they're pretty interesting. The things, 10 things people say before they die that they wish they had done during their life. None of them say, I wish I had worked harder at my job or spent more time watching television. They all say things, I wish I had climbed Mount Kilimanjaro or had been a kind friend to all living beings, and things like that. More of a kind of virtuous types of things people think of. But in the process of making advancement in human life, one has to get superior information about what are the best things to do, how to act. Because every living entity has to act anyway. Nahi kashit shanamapi jatutishyat karma krit karyate hyavashak karma sarva prakriti jaragunai. Krishna says in the Gita that all living entities are forced to act because of the modes of material nature. Actually, he says, and Prabhupada elaborates in his purport, that living entities are active by nature. They have an eternal nature, and it's always active. They're always conscious. They're in different states of consciousness, and they may be affected by the modes and therefore act in aberrant ways, but active they are. And so those who come to realize that there's a consequence for their actions, this means they deliberate on what are the consequences for acting in certain ways. In fact, I was just thinking recently about how pain is a kind of mercy that we get in this world, because we're undergoing in this body a kind of very intense sensitivity training. And when we get pain, and then we connect it to activities that we've done previously, then we avoid those other activities. And we become more and more refined. So the refined persons, Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, are very rare. Manushanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kashyan mam beti tafataha. Out of millions of people, hardly a few endeavor for self-realization. And of those who endeavor for self-realization, even out of those, it's very rare that somebody knows about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That comes from coming in contact with the devotees of the Lord and with the divine scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Then one can get an idea about how to act in this life so that one goes to that place beyond all miseries. And here's one of those activities, giving a gift of Srimad Bhagavatam. So there are many gifts that people can give in this world, and they do. In fact, around this time of year, I know that people who celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah and they give gifts spend they get in a lot of anxiety about what to get for people. I know I used to, until my wife took over the job, and I never had to think about it. Now we don't have any more family, so life's a lot easier. But thinking up how to give gifts and things like that, it's very difficult. And half the gifts people give around this time of year go back the day after. Is it Boxing Day here? What does that mean anyway? They box things up and take them back? I don't know. I've heard a lot of debates about that. But in America, it's a big rush back to the store. Everyone takes their gift back. Just give me my money back. I don't like this. And another half of the things just sit in people's house and they end up in the landfill. And then another half of that, people use for a little while and it breaks, or it's stolen or something like that. It's very rare that somebody actually gets a gift in this world that changes their life completely, and they relish it for the rest of their life, and they never become tired of it. People sometimes even ask for certain gifts, and then they get it, and then after they've had it for a couple of weeks, I don't like it that much. Or somebody else, they get two of the same thing, and then it just seems ordinary. It's, I got two, it's not very nice. It's hard to get anything that is satisfactory in this world. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is the gift that can actually satisfy the soul, because this gift teaches how to love Krishna. And in the book itself, Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhaktiradhoksaje ahaituki apratiyata yayatma suprasidati. It says how to satisfy the self. That's a good science to know, isn't it? Everyone's running around. What are you running around so much for? I've got to get money. Why do you get money? I don't know, I got to get things. And why do you got to get things? I don't know, maybe it'll make me happy. No, it won't. Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhaktiradhoksaje ahaitukiya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. Here's the formula. It's the gold standard given in the Bhagavatam. In fact, this is where the Gita leaves off, the Bhagavatam starts. Krishna tells all about religion in the Bhagavad Gita. And at the end he says, forget religion, just surrender to me. That's a better thing to do. All these other details, they're not so important. This is important. Surrender to me. And if you do that, you can bypass all the other things. And then the Bhagavatam starts off, Dharma prochita kaitavo tra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayan Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Prayarishvara Sadyo Hridyavarudyate Trakritipi Shushu Shubish Takshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities that are materially motivated, this Bhagavatam propounds the highest truth, which is reality, distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Srila Vyasadeva, is sufficient in itself for God realization. As soon as one submissively listens to the Bhagavad, submissively and attentively listens to the message of Bhagavatam, he becomes attached to the Supreme Lord. And by the way, the Supreme Lord becomes attached to him, that person who's reading Bhagavatam. We confirmed that on the first day, I think, when we read from the last verse in the second chapter of the 11th canto, which describes how the Lord becomes attached to the person who simply says his name, willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or unknowingly. The Lord then becomes attached to that person. What to speak of somebody who's kritibi, who's expert in reciting the Bhagavatam and saying the Lord's name out of love or out of knowledge or even out of duty, that then the Supreme Lord stays there with that person. So at the end of the Gita, Krishna says, surrender to me. In the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Krishna, the Sutta Goswami says, Vyasadeva says, this is the standard. We reject anything that is materially motivated. And we want to know the highest truth, which is given nice definition: reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. It's two parts there. It's reality distinguished from illusion. We want the Siddhanta. Siddhanta means not just what something is, but also what it isn't. It's very precise. You have to come to perfect knowledge in order to have a perfect life. Therefore, Kaviraj Goswami says in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Siddhanta balaya chitta nakara alash, iha hoite lage sudrid manash. He said, don't be lazy. You learn this Siddhanta. You find out exactly what the Paramgatim, the supreme goal, is in life. You have to know what that is, and you have to know what is proper action, what is improper action. Everything has to be complete. Therefore, we have these acharyas who have written all these books, like just now the Laghu Bhagavatamrita's come out. You know there's the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, right? Who has a copy? And you should get the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. These books are according to the science of Vastu, every object in this world has an effect on your life. And when you get a spiritual object in your realm, wherever you are, it has a spiritual influence on you. So even if you can't read it yet, you should have the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So the Brihat means what? It means big. And then the Laghu means the small. So it's so generous of these acharyas. First is the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, which is first there's the Bhagavatam, and then the Brihat Bhagavatamrita gives the essence of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam gives the essence of all the Vedas. It's a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is a commentary on the Upanishads, the essence of the essence. And then you get Brihat Bhagavatamrita, which was spoken after the Bhagavatam because Uttara, the mother of Parikshit, came forward and said, I didn't hear everything. Could you give me the synopsis? He had a little time before the snake bird came. And Parikshit Maharaj appreciated his mother's question so much. She intuited that there is a certain kind of person in this world that has unmotivated love for God. She said, there must be a place for those people. And Parikshit Maharaj said, this is a very intelligent question you're asking. And then he described the greatest of devotees. There's a hierarchy of devotees. They're all great. In fact, Prabhupada said of his disciples, when somebody was making some criticism of his disciples, because sometimes it seems like these in the beginning it was all Westerners, and like, these guys can't be Vaishnavas. Look where they come from. And Prabhupada would always defend them, because certain people, they look at people according to their past. Other people, they look at people, judge them according to how they are right now. Forget the past. This is how they are now. But the greatest of all see people according to their future, their potential. They know their potential, and they see when they're in contact with the Bhagavatam and with the holy name, they say this is what they're going to become. In fact, they already know that if they're saying Hare Krishna, Aho Batashwa Pachato Gariyanya Jiva Grevartati Namatu Bhyam Te Pustapaste Juhuvu Sasna Arya Brahmanachur Nama Grananti Ete. Devahuti says, these people, they're not ordinary. If they can say Hare Krishna, they've already performed all kinds of sacrifices. They've gone to all the holy places. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said the same thing. If I hear one Hare Krishna out of you, then I consider you the best amongst the whole population. So Prabhupada, knowing very well the potency of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy name, and that if someone could come forward and say Hare Krishna, what to speak of dance and say Hare Krishna, what to speak of be interested in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, that person was destined for pure devotional service. And it didn't matter who they were. As Shukadev Goswami even says, and this is the mood of our Sampradaya, Shukadev, Hirata Hunandra Pulinda Puklasha, Abhira Shumba Yavana Kasadaya, Yene Chapapa Yara Pashraya Shaya Shudyanti Tasmai Pravavishnave Namaha. He says, I don't care who you are, how far out you've become. I mean, people get pretty far out when they get mixed up with the modes, don't they? They get wild. And they start whole civilizations based on complete mental speculation, crazy stuff. They have a whole idea, I'm this, I'm that. So he names all these different people who have become so affected by the modes of material nature, so far away from the Varnashram regulation that actually step by step purifies one. And he said, all of these people, these crazies, when they come in contact with the Bhagavatam, because it's the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these people come to the highest position of life, just by that contact. Prabhupada, when he came to America, I remember he went to the worst place in New York. Partly couldn't afford anything, and partly he was manifesting the mercy of Lord Nityananda, meeting these like downtrodden people who were just lost. And even Allen Ginsberg, who was a famous poet at the time, who was chanting Hare Krishna before he met Prabhupada, because he had read some books. He didn't even know what it was. He was just chanting. Prabhupada attracted so many different kinds of people, living entities that were dabbling in this and that. And then he came and he said, he's the first Swami I've seen that went downtown. All the other Swamis went uptown, put on nice suit and tie, and got all gussied up, changed their affectation, and Prabhupada just went downtown with his pointy shoes and his Vrindavan dress, and he sat out there and he chanted Hare Krishna, and he had the Bhagavatam. He just led with the Bhagavatam. You see that picture of him holding that book up. It's like he's leading a charge. You can see him on the Jaladuta. He's on the masthead, practically on the Jaladuta, coming across the ocean. He's holding up the Bhagavatam, and he didn't care. 2 heart attacks. He's still holding the Bhagavatam up and saying, I'm coming in. If they had known when they saw him at customs and he had all these trunks full of books, and they said, well, what are all these books for? You selling these? That's what people say all the time when they meet us at different places where you're not supposed to sell. Are you selling these? Prabhupada said the same thing we all say now, or we say all the same thing Prabhupada said then, which was, no, I'm not selling them. And Prabhupada said they wouldn't have let him in, It's just for donation. I just take their whole life away. And Prabhupada maintained himself for the first year selling the Bhagavatam when he came to America with those trunks of books. I talked to Brahmananda right before he stepped out of his body and went back to serving Prabhupada somewhere. And he was telling me how those trunks, I always said, where did Prabhupada keep those trunks? How do you bring all these trunks of books over and take care of them when you don't have any money, you don't have any place to stay? I mean, he couldn't have showed up at Sally Agarwal's house and say, by the way, I got 15 trunks with me full of books. And Brahmananda told me that the Scindia Steamship Company has their own storage area right in New York. And they also donated that. They gave him storage area for his books. And he kept them there. They took him right to that storage area. They kept him there until Prabhupada got established. And then he brought him out. And Brahmananda and Gargamuni, two of his first disciples, took all the books out of the trunks. And Prabhupada wanted to tie him up in string, because there were 3 volumes of the first canto. So they were tying him up. And some of the first volumes were already gone because Prabhupada broke up some of the set. But Prabhupada sat there chanting and watching them as they tied up these Bhagavatams, getting them ready to drop them on the conditioned souls. So Prabhupada had this vision that when he met people and he saw that they took even a glimmer of interest in Krishna consciousness, knowing the science that I'm just verifying by these various verses, he could see their potential. And so he fanned the spark in them and he gave them more and more spiritual nourishment. And they took it and became purified. And so people all over the world are looking for some kind of fortune. They also want to be famous for giving something nice. And sometimes people have a lot of money, they give fancy gifts because they think then it will show their wealth and so forth for giving away. But the greatest gift of all is the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the one thing that every soul needs in this world, actually. And Parikshit Maharaj, who showed the means for accepting the Bhagavatam, was a great king. I mean, imagine being a king, you don't even have to go through an election. It's, you're the undisputed ruler. There's no, like this person won by a few more votes. There's an electoral college. No controversy at all. You're like completely in power. No questions asked. And everyone loved Parikshit Maharaj because he treated everyone like his own child, even the animals, because the great Mahabhagavatas see every living entity equally. And he had all mystic powers because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. This is confirmed in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. Those who are on the topmost platform, they have access to all these things. And he had his youth, he had wealth, he controlled everything. And then he was cursed by a little kid, a little punk, who was just showing off. He was just showing off for his friends. He had felt a little insulted because his father had been a little bit disrespected, apparently, by Parikshit Maharaj when Parikshit Maharaj was in the forest and he got thirsty, and he went into the hermitage to get a little water, see if he got a little clay pot somewhere, and the sage just sat there and ignored him. So uncharacteristically, by the arrangement of the Lord, Parikshit Maharaj became a little exasperated, and he just picked up a snake, a dead snake nearby, and hung it around his neck and walked out. And then when little Shringi, the son of this sage, found out about it, he uttered a curse to impress all his friends, because he was from the Brahmin class, and he still had this Brahma Tejas. So he said, I curse this king in 7 days from today. A snake bird will appear in his kingdom and will come and bite him and he'll die. And when Parikshit Maharaj found out that he had been cursed to die in 7 days, he was completely tolerant. This is one of the symptoms Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said of advanced devotees, is shantir, which means forgiveness. He was cursed and he forgave him. He could have counteracted it, but he accepted it and said, this is Krishna's will. And not only that, not only is it Krishna's will, it's Krishna's mercy on me, that he's given me this chance to actually become detached and become close to him. And he left his kingdom and he went and sat down on the bank of the Ganges. And then when the news got out that the king of the world, the emperor of the world, was giving up his kingdom and he was going to give up his life in 7 days, everybody came. Vashishta was there, Vishwamrita, Vyasadeva, all the greatest of sages, and everyone congregated there. There were many different people giving ideas about what he should do, what he shouldn't do at the time of death. And then when Shukadeva Goswami came, and Shukadeva, who was born in the womb of Vyasadev's wife, had stayed there for 12 years because he was already self-realized within the womb. And he didn't want to come out. He was sitting there completely absorbed in Brahman realization. Krishna had to come and convince him, you can come out, it's okay. And when he did come out, then Bhagavatam says, Yam pravachantam anupetam apetakritam dvaipayano viraha kartara ajuhava putreti tan mayatayata ravo binedus tam sarva bhuta hridayam munimanatosmi. Means he just took off. And his father was running after him saying, come back, at least get a sacred thread. And he didn't even turn around. He just ignored his father. Wanted nothing. He was so detached from the idea of the material world. He had no connection whatsoever. And his father was Vyasadeva. And Shukadeva Goswami went off into the forest just to remain absorbed in the Brahman. And then Shukadeva in the forest began to hear some enchanting sounds. And this is one of the important aspects of our philosophy, is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He commented on the Atmarama verse many, many times. Atmaramas chamunayo nigranta apyarukame kurvantya haitu kim bhaktim itam bhuta gunohari. He says that this Bhagavatam, it's not an ordinary sound vibration. It's not an ordinary book. Why? What's the proof? The proof is that Atmaramas, those who are equipoised, they're not attached to the material world at all. When they hear the sound vibration of the Bhagavatam, they become interested. And Shukadeva Goswami was there in the forest, completely satisfied, no material desire whatsoever. And then his father sent out some disciples into the forest to recite verses from the Bhagavatam, like Aho Bhakiyam Stanakala Kutam. A verse from the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam says, oh, how wonderful it is, this Lord Krishna. Who would take shelter of anybody else? Because Lord Krishna, although he was approached by Putana, a dastardly witch who wanted to kill him and put poison on her breast, dressed herself up as his mother, came in, and he discounted the fact that she tried to kill him and just accepted the fact that she offered her breast. So he gave her liberation in the spiritual world. He said, who would take shelter of anyone else besides Krishna? And there's a whole science behind that. You can read it in the Bhagavatam, the Lagu Bhagavatamrita, why one should only surrender to Krishna, nobody else. Because even the other incarnations of the Lord, when they kill someone, they don't get liberation. But when Krishna kills, then they get liberation. So beneficial to remember Krishna, to chant Krishna's names. Even if you're a demon and you hate Krishna, that's also beneficial. Yam kroda kama sahaja pranayadi piti vatsalya moha guru gaura vasevya bhavai sanchintya tasya sadrishim tanamapurete govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. If you have hatred, or you have naturally friendly love, or you think of him as a beautiful child, any of these ways, any way you can become attracted to Krishna, you get the highest benefit. So when Shukadeva heard these verses of the Bhagavatam, he became so attracted that he came back to the house of Vyasadeva, and he learned the whole science of Bhagavatam. And then he had no obligation in life. Devotees are completely free from any obligation. But the Bhagavatam says then he went out into the world. And why did he do that? out of feeling of compassion for living entities. And while he was wandering by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he came to that place where Parikshit Maharaj had sat down with the determination of finding out what he should do at the time of death. And all the sages there, including Vyasadeva and thousands of others, when they saw this teenage boy, and some of them were, tens of thousands of years old, these are old sages, they saw Shukadeva Goswami, they automatically understood that he was the one. He wasn't even wearing clothes, and it wasn't even, he didn't even know wasn't even aware if he was wearing clothes or not. He didn't even consider it. He was so detached from the world. And this is actually the standard, not that we shouldn't wear clothes, but the standard of the person who's actually entering into Bhagavata life. And this is mentioned in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When you come to the stage of whether you're not sure if you're wearing clothes or not wearing clothes, it's actually, because you're so unconcerned with the material body. Even it's mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur when the devotee leaves his body, it's as if you dropped your chudder somewhere. Your chudder flew off your shoulder, and it's like, hey, you lost your chudder. And it's like, I didn't notice. It's like so Shukadeva was in that perfect state, already completely detached from the material world, but there's something higher than liberation. This is what the Bhagavatam's saying. There's something higher. It's the highest thing. It's Goloka Vrindavan. It's Krishna and his pastimes. And when Shukadeva, they all stood up and they gave him the seat of esteem and began to speak this Bhagavatam. Who doesn't want to hear that? That's the question that comes out when Sutta Goswami repeated it at in the forest of Naimasaranya, where they all gathered, the hub of the universe. That's the place where when you have a seminar, then the information goes out to the rest of the world. And their question, Kova Bhagavatastasya, Kona Kuryat Kataratim. Who won't want to hear this message? After understanding the circumstances and who spoke it, they're like, who won't want to hear this? Well, you can find out by going door to door with Bhagavatam. There's a lot of people. And it's kind of interesting, too, that because it's like, even if you explain it to people who know, or should know, sometimes we meet people from India and stuff like that, and they kind of understand. Their parents taught them, you put your head on the floor before Krishna, you read the Bhagavad Gita, and still there's resistance, So I'd rather work. I'd rather work till I die, rather than bow down to Krishna. This is the problem in the material world. But the solution, and a solution, that's a scientific term. You have, what is it? You have the substance, and then the solution, and then you get the salute. Is that right? That's correct. You have to have a solution. A solution breaks down a solid into is it? I'm making stuff up. Anyway, I know that water is a universal solvent. It breaks things down over time, and there are other solvents that break things down. But, we're stuck like mango sap. If you get mango sap in your hair, you can't get it out. That's what the gopis said. The gopis said, Krishna, you're like mango sap. We can't get you out of our mind, and we want to. We want to stop thinking of you. And the mango sap, once you get it in your hair, forget it. Might as well cut your hair off. So the material life is like that. It's like getting mango sap all over you. So how do you get it off? You need a solvent. And the Bhagavatam is that solvent. These verses we chant before class, they say, take that solvent. It'll dissolve that stickiness that is keeping you attached to things you don't even like. You don't even like this. It's like, I know I don't like it, but I'm not giving it up. It's like, that's stupid. I know it's stupid, but that's what I am. But the Bhagavatam makes you smart. It makes you smart. If you read Bhagavatam, you become smart, and you also become unstuck. And that's why it's the best gift. So those who know what this Bhagavatam is, and they've actually tasted it for themselves, and you have to do that. You have to actually feel it. You have to actually feel how the sap is coming off and how you're becoming freed by hearing Bhagavatam. It's miraculous. Those people, like, just in the mood of Shukadeva Goswami, who went out. He didn't have anywhere to go. He had no obligation to go out, but he went out. And he went out and said, I got to give this out of compassion, out of a sense of giving a gift, the greatest gift. So as we speak, people are piling up more gifts out there. They're going to rush off there in the next few days to buy as many gifts as they can. And remember, half of them will be returned. And I don't know what they do with returned gifts. Can you resell it? If you resell it, it's worth less. Another half of the half is going to go to the landfill. Another half is going to sit around people's houses. It'll get passed on to the next generation, and they'll throw it away. It's all junk. The whole material world is junk, and Shukadeva Goswami knew it was all junk, and so he walked away from it, but he took the Bhagavatam. What kind of gift is that? That's the real gift. There is no other gift. And that's what this verse is saying. This is the king of all gifts. Give the Bhagavatam. Give yourself the gift of Bhagavatam. Live in it. Make that your life. If you're going to get a PhD in Bhagavatam. Otherwise, they make you read so many stupid books for no reason, just to stay busy because you're paying $50,000 a semester. You better look like you're busy to read all this junk that you're going to forget anyway. But if you just cut to the chase and read Bhagavatam, even if you're an ignorant child and you take to the Bhagavatam, you become a famous personality. What to speak if you start to develop a taste for the Bhagavatam? You become worshipable. This book is so great. So these are no small words. Talking about putting the Bhagavatam on a golden throne, and in the auspicious day when gifts are supposed to be given, give that gift. And what do you get? You go back to Godhead for giving that gift. That's real giving. That's extreme giving. And that's what our Krishna consciousness movement is. And real rasa, when people talk, now I'm going to become a rasika devotee. Achyutananda Prabhu, one of the first disciples, if not the first, gave a talk in New Vrindavan that really melted my heart. He was talking about Prabhupada's determination all by himself to get on a boat and come and share this knowledge to people of the world at any cost. He said, that's Rasika. Going out to give people this message, as making a sacrifice. That's when you actually feel some nectar in your heart, that I did this for Krishna, to give this gift to other people. As he says in the Bhagavad Gita, there's no servant more dear to me than somebody who makes this kind of sacrifice to give the message to other people. That's what develops that rasika. That's service to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who ran after people to give him Krishna consciousness. He couldn't stand seeing people suffering in the material world, and that's the hallmark of the Vaishnava. Vaishnava's in ecstasy all the time, but there's a kind of suffering, which is another kind of, he's in ecstasy. It doesn't mean that he suffers like an ordinary person, but he's feeling this compassion for other living entities and wants to give the best gift to that person. Feels happy when somebody gets something nice. Even when you give out prasadam, you can give out prasadam. People take prasadam, you walk away, you feel satisfied. If you just walk away and they don't get anything, you don't get anything. But if you give out prasadam everywhere you go and people take a little lollipop, we were giving out lollipops the other day, and people, you know, they're like, nah, I don't want anything, go away. And then you're here, take a lollipop, and they go, all right, I'll take that. It's like, okay, fine. Now I feel okay. You know, you close your door, and you go in, eat the lollipop. I offered to Krishna, so there. And, you know, you can make a life of giving like this. And we gave a lollipop to a monkey the other day when we were in Vrindavan. We were down at Govinda Kund. I was taking a last chance to go around with Keshav Bharti Maharaj, who wasn't up to walk into all the holy places, so we took a car around on the last day, and we went to all these different kunds, and we were at Govinda Kund early in the morning, and driver got out and walked away, and we were sitting there, and I looked over, and there was a monkey, and he was sitting under a tree, and he was looking at us like, what are you guys doing here? And I said, I'm here giving out stuff. You want something? And he said, what do you got? And I pulled out a lollipop, an organic lollipop from California, offered to Krishna. And I tossed it to him, and he picked it up, and he knew exactly what to do. He just picked the thing, he looks at it, he didn't even read the ingredients. He just, with his teeth, he pulled off the cellophane, and he put it in his mouth, and he crunched it down, you know? He didn't even suck on it or anything. Just crunch, 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 threw the stick and walked off. And I thought, even monkeys like these things. And we felt ecstasy, you know, that like we were able to have a little relationship with this Vrindavan monkey, you know? You give a little prasad. So you got to think about giving. This is real happiness in life. It's arrange your life so you can give. And if you give the best thing, then you'll never be in anxiety. And you'll create waves of happiness in people's lives that go on. You know, you give somebody the Bhagavatam, they read it, they become a devotee, they make other people devotees. When you leave this world, your legacy is going to go on and on. That person made somebody else a devotee, and it continues on. That's why we sing at the end of the song we sing to worship Prabhupada, that this Ebi Josh Gushuk Tribhuvan, famous all over the three worlds. When you start giving out the best thing, you start to get famous because you're actually helping people. Nobody's famous for giving a toaster, or, you know, they become infamous actually. It's like, what'd you give him? He gave me a toaster. That stinking rat. It's not even a good toaster. Don't bother. Don't even bother. Just, you know, give the best thing, and then you have actual life. And that's the Krishna consciousness movement. That's our legacy. For all our problems, we're giving the best thing. So those other things, although we have to work on them, they're insignificant compared to what we are actually doing. Go Premanande Haribo. And now we'll take, we have 2 or 3 minutes to take a few reflections or questions.
Thank you so much for sharing the taste for Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhu. What stuck in my mind was how, and not an ordinary kshatriya was Maharaj Parikshit, as he exhibited the Brahminical qualities by not only not counteracting and accepting this as Krishna will, the curse, but also seeing it as Krishna's mercy.
Yeah. He was the grandson of Arjuna. So, no ordinary person. Yes.
I was just thinking about, you're talking about it's now Christmas and people are shopping, and I was just thinking about a month from now when the credit card bills come and how much anxiety they're going to have over that. And you just said that when you give the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the best thing, you don't experience any anxiety. And I was just thinking back to when, a couple of years ago, when Mahabhagat didn't have a job. And we were in anxiety materially, like thinking how we're going to manage. But when it came to giving donations or sponsoring books or stuff like that, Krishna made the arrangement to make it possible. And we didn't have any anxiety. It was just, this is what we want to do. And as soon as we had the desire to do it, Krishna made the arrangements and it was possible, and we were not anxious about it at all. So I was just thinking about that when you want to give Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, and if you're really sincere about it, then it's wonderful.
Yeah, even a person doesn't have material wealth, if they start giving to Krishna and the devotees and give the Bhagavatam, then they become wealthy, actually. What else? Yoga. And thank you for sharing that realization. These are practical things. Because actually you can speak philosophically, but then when it actually comes down to doing something or being in a situation where, okay, I don't have money right now, what should I do? That choice, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to act for Krishna. And then seeing there's a fruit there. So it's very powerful to hear from other devotees about that, because we'll remember that whenever we're in a situation, we think back, like, oh, that devotee surrendered, so let me do it too. That's what sadhu sangha is all about.
I just have I have one comment and one question, Prabhu. My comment was that I was just taking like an Uber here, and somehow or other on the way, like the driver, he was saying, "Would you like radio or do you want quiet time?" I said, "I just want quiet time. I'm just going to be meditating." So he was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Send some, I guess he said like send some like a meditation vibes my way too while you're doing it." So I was chanting Hare Krishna, and when we were getting towards the end, he started asking me, he's like, "So what kind of meditation are you doing?" And I said, "Sound meditation." He said, "This is like the." I said, "I'm like a Hare Krishna. Do you know the Hare Krishnas?" And he said, "Yeah, I know the Hare Krishnas a little bit." And he was saying Hare Krishna, and then he's like, "I also meditate." And he was describing how this Buddhist monk taught him how to meditate on a white light and focus on the white light and all this. I was listening to him and everything. Then I was thinking that I have to give him a book somehow or other, but I don't have any books on me. So as we were getting close to the temple, I was texting Radhamohan Prabhu. I was saying, "Prabhu, can you please bring out a Chant and Be Happy and like a Gita? This person really wants a book," even though I hadn't asked him yet. So as we were nearing, I said, "This is like a temple. We do meditation here a lot, and we have some really nice books about meditation. Would you like some?" And he said, "I would love some, please." And he's like, "How much can I, give you for them?" And I said, "It's just a donation. You can give what you can." He's like, "But the problem is I only have a card." I said, "It's okay. We do have debit machines." So I asked Prabhu, I texted him, "Can you please bring a debit machine as well?" He's like, "Perfect. You guys are all, equipped." So Prabhu came out with the books, and the driver, he paid, he gave $10 for the Gita and the Chant Be Happy, and he got the card with the mantra and with the temple address, and he was really, really happy, and he was saying, "This is just, destiny." He's like, "I've just been thinking that I need to get some, material to kind of learn how to meditate and go deeper in my practice." He's like, "This is just destiny. Thank you so much." He was so grateful. So that's one story. And my question was that we often read and hear that the more, that the more purified you become, the better you become at giving. So how do we kind of become determined, or how do we become more purified and so we can be better instruments in giving to Krishna? Yeah.
Well, it's just we have to have something to give. What we're really giving is our realization. And the realization shines forth from our countenance. That's the most attractive thing to souls in this world. Living entities are very sensitive. They look at other people and they can sense when somebody is actually enlightened or truly happy. They can see that because it's the nature of the soul to be happy. They're spiritual. They're spiritual beings. So they can recognize that effulgence, or if I dare to use the word aura, I may get sued for that, but there's an aura that comes from those who have chanted good japa. If somebody chanted extraordinary japa, they walk around, people look at them and they say, "Wow, what do you got? You got anything for me in there? You sure you don't have anything?" I mean, they approach the person who actually has that. That's what we're distributing, really. And then they can read about it in the book, what it is. That's why we say we have the book Bhagavata and the person Bhagavata. It's not just the book Bhagavata, it's the person Bhagavata, because if there's no person Bhagavatas walking around, what is the use of the book Bhagavata? So one actually has to get something from the book. You actually have to get at least a molecule of spiritual enlivenment from contacting Krishna in his name or in the Bhagavatam. And if you can get even one atom of that spiritual contact, it's enough to flood all of Toronto, all of Ontario. That's a state, right? It's a province. It's a province. You can flood the entire province of Ontario with one tiny atom of spiritual contact with the holy name. in the course of 16. Actually, all of Canada could be flooded with that one tiny little molecule, one particle of realization. Actually, it will go across the border into North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, even the people of Kansas will be affected. I mean, look at Prabhupada. He came in with pointy shoes on, but he had that, he was effulgent. People looked at him and they felt something. That's why the Bhagavatam says some things like, when a pure devotee speaks, there's saffron mercy particles coming. It's true. This is not poetry. It's true. They actually, there's the spiritual Shakti, it emanates from the devotee. So Prabhupada used to tell us all the time, you got to read the books. When our Sankirtan party went in to meet Prabhupada in 1973, we went in the room and Bhaktidas was telling Prabhupada, they're doing so many books. He was reading the scores, say they're beating LA and this and that, everything. And Prabhupada just looked at it and said, you must read my books. He said, I've not written them just for selling. I've written them for you to read and become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. And so that, that's what people actually see it is your level of spiritual advancement. And that's why they want to give something. They want to surrender, because they're feeling that. So we just have to take it seriously. That means give attention, full attention to the best thing. And do it until you get something. There's a song that my family used to sing around Christmas. I don't know where they got it, but it was something about figgy pudding. And they say, I won't go until I get some, I won't go until I get some. And then at the end they say, like, we want us some figgy pudding. And but we have to beg like that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, don't go until you get something. The Harinam Mahamantra, Lao Tumi Magi, sit there and beg that, please, Krishna, give me that one molecule of enlivenment that I can, then you'll have something to distribute to the people. So begging works. That's what Bhaktivinoda says, beg and beg and beg. Did you ever give to a beggar?
Give?
Did you ever give something to a beggar?
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Because they were pretty persistent.
And they asked, right? If they didn't ask, you probably wouldn't give anything. So you got to ask. You got to keep asking. That's what we do the Maha Mantra too. Be aware of the fact that you're asking too, and just keep asking. And it's also, we have to feel like I don't have anything. That's what Kunti Devi says. Only people, real beggars. I mean, sometimes you see beggars and you go like, I know you got a stash there somewhere. They already look, you can kind of see they got a whole bag full of stuff. They're all actually, and you can tell this is a professional. They're doing it just because this is how they make a living. And it's like, I don't feel very inclined. But if you see somebody, I mean, there's these heart-rending little video clips, all over the world of, when there's a real situation, somebody's really in need. Somehow they're estranged from their country, they're wandering from one place to the next. People with compassion, they think like, let me help this person. They're really bereft. They don't have anything. And then your heart goes out to them. The whole world, feels that. And Kunti Devi said, if you already think you have something, Janmaishwari Shuta Shribir, Edamana Madapuma, Naivar Yadita Tumvai Twamakinchana Gocharam, then you really can't chant like that. But if you feel a kinchana, I don't have anything, I'm bereft, and you chant like that, and you put out your hand and just beg Krishna, please, that one molecule, if you could give it to me one time. And then Kunti says he'll be inclined. He knows the difference very well. Just like today, unreservedly. That was in the purport, I think. Unreservedly hear the Bhagavatam. It has to be unreserved, and it means holding something back. Like Madhava Maharaj always likes to say, Krishna doesn't see what you're giving him, he sees what you're holding behind your back. If you unreservedly give yourself and your heart. Okay. Uh-oh. Vanchakalpadrishya kripasandabevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you very, very much. And let's please turn towards the camera and thank all the devotees by saying, who are online, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So thank you to all the devotees and thank you to Vaisheshika Prabhu for enlivening us with wonderful class. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We heard in the class that we should beg. So I'm here begging all the devotees. I'm begging for two things. You know, there are millions of people out there. Would you not want to have 1 million people attend this Bhagavatam class today? Haribol. So yes, we can do our bit. I'm here begging all the devotees to please take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to take Bhagavatam home. If you don't have Srimad Bhagavatam, we want 100% participation from all the devotees, the army of Lord Chaitanya, to please take Bhagavatam home if you don't have. And secondly, take the opportunity to gift this Bhagavatam to a friend and family. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.